Dear friends at St. Christopher's, let me just give thanks for you first off. As I ponder the year that you've been through and the good work that you've done, that comes from a deep devotion to Christ, to live out a life of Christ in the community where you find yourselves. It also comes from the stewardships of the gifts and resources that you've been given. Certainly, that is gifts of time in which you have devoted yourself to serving at St. Chris or St. Christopher's, or for time that you have given even online to support the mission and ministry at the work of St. Christopher's over this COVID tide. It also is about your own gifts, those things that you bring to the church and place them in service to God. Sometimes we think of stewardship only about doing the work inside the church, and we certainly are grateful for the work that you do inside, but we also want to recognize that the time and the gifts that you bring to other ministries, maybe in the neighborhood, in the community, in the wider city, that those also are stewards, that when you give those gifts, you're also being stewards of God's grace and mercy and love and power that is a part of who you are as a baptized follower of Jesus. We also want to say thank you for the good stewardship of dollars, of money, for these gifts to enable us to exit COVID tide, as we will do, with strength, so that the ministries and mission of St. Christopher's remains strong. And you all have been so very generous and gracious in your giving over this last year. And so the first thing I just simply want to say to you is thank you. Thank you for that ministry of stewarding the gifts that you have, and thanksgiving to God, and directing some of that gift giving to St. Christopher's Episcopal Church. Now, it is that time of year also in which we stop and pause. And let me just tell you a little bit. I learned this a long time ago from a great steward in the first church I solo pastored at, St. Francis, a gentleman by the name of Mac Moore, who took me aside and really opened his own heart about stewardship to me and shared with me how he and his family had decided on the ways in which they would pray, discern, and then give. And so Joanne and I continue that practice, and so in this time of year I'm inviting you to join Joanne and I as we consider how we will steward the gifts that we have in 2021. And what we do is we like to visit and talk. We want to pray and give thanks for the goodness of God in our lives, to say where it is that we find God acting, and where we have been fortunate to receive God's grace and mercy, or God's love, or where we have felt God's hand guiding us, where we have felt God's strength supporting us in times when maybe we were feeling weak or unsure. And to truly take that abundance, because it is an abundance once you start thinking about it, and how God is alive and moving in our lives, then we make our pledge. And over the years, we've managed to grow our tithe to a tithe and beyond. And as we do that, we've been able to share resources, our resources, with the Episcopal Church that Joanne goes to every Sunday, and our children were raised in. That's the cathedral at present. And also we've seen that we could, out of our abundance, give to a few other organizations like Thistle Farms, Episcopal Relief and Development. And perhaps you yourself have ministries that you give to at the local level or beyond, something like those that I've mentioned. And so I want to invite you to join Joanne and I this year to pray, to give thanks for a God who has been truly active in our lives, even in the midst of COVID tide, and to seek to then offer up gifts from our abundance, from your abundance, to your church and local ministries. Of course, we do know that COVID tide has been very difficult for many families. And so what I would just want to end with is to say that this is not about large and small gifts. This is about giving out of what we have in thanksgiving to God. And I hope that you will focus on that as you think and consider with us how we will be stewards this year. Let me end with the prayer of the general thanksgiving from our prayer book. Accept, O Lord, our thanks and praise for all that you have done for us. We thank you for the splendor of the whole creation, for the beauty of this world, for the wonder of life, for the mystery of love. We thank you for the blessing of family and friends, and for the loving care which surrounds us on every side. We thank you for setting us at tasks which demand our best efforts, and for leading us to accomplishments which satisfy and delight us. We thank you also, though, for those disappointments and failures that lead us to acknowledge our dependence on you. And above all, we thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, the truth of his word and the example of his life, for his steadfast obedience by which he overcame temptation, for his dying through which he overcame death, for his rising to life again in which we are raised to the life of your kingdom. So grant us the gift of your Spirit, Lord, that we may know Christ and make him known, and through him at all times and in all places may give thanks to you in all things. Amen.